If your job is draining your confidence and making you feel worthless, it's time for real talk about reclaiming your power. Let's explore that painful disconnect that many of my clients feel when their work no longer feels meaningful and they're disillusioned about where they're at. Worse yet, they feel invisible and unappreciated in their career. Hi, I'm Kendra, and this episode will validate those feelings of invisibility and the frustration that you're feeling. We're going to unpack how that disconnect actually fuels burnout and imposter syndrome and deep dissatisfaction. And I'll offer some starting points to really reclaim your visibility and your purpose. Is your potential being stifled? Is your true value being overlooked? I know that you deserve better and can find work that truly reflects who you are. So let's dive in. What does it feel like to be invisible? What does that feel like at work? Well, it can feel like being ignored, right? It can feel like being overlooked, undervalued, right? I mean, if you're being ignored, why is that? I mean, have you been there so long that they just assume you'll do it, you'll take care of it, and they don't think anything of it? Is it because maybe you fly under the radar? You don't stand up for yourself? I mean, are you being taken advantage of, right? Is it an exclusionary tactic, right? I mean, do you just not rock the boat? Do you just fly under the radar and so you're being ignored? If you're being overlooked, that's maybe a reflection of, are you not able to self-promote effectively, right? Are you not able to use your voice? Do you lack visibility? Is it a bullying tactic, right? Is there a bias at play? Is something else going on? But it's really convenient for others around you for you to stay where you are, right? For you to stay small, for you to stay doing what you're doing. That's convenient for everybody, right? If you're feeling undervalued, is there a lack of recognition, right? Are you not being trusted with more responsibility, right? There's like a stagnation that happens, right? When there's a lack of career progression. But it's deeply uncomfortable. And when we're feeling invisible at work, it can feel like we're being ignored. It can feel like we're being overlooked. It can feel like we're being unappreciated or undervalued, right? And, maybe others are taking credit for your work. Maybe you're being passed over for promotions. Maybe other people are bumping ahead of you, right? Or getting ahead of you. Now, how does this invisibility chip away at your confidence over time? Well, you can imagine, right? If you continue to be overlooked and feel undervalued and unappreciated, that's going to chip away at your confidence. I mean, it's going to foster a sense of self-doubt, right? I mean, it's natural to start questioning your abilities and your value when you're being ignored. I mean, it makes it very hard to speak up and take initiative or even believe in yourself, believing in your ideas, right? So that self-doubt starts to foster if you're invisible or being undervalued, right? Or being overlooked. It makes it a lot harder to speak up and it makes it a lot harder to take initiative, right? Because that self-doubt holds you back. The other thing that invisibility does in terms of chipping away at your confidence is that feeling of invisibility can exacerbate imposter syndrome. So if you've had some imposter syndrome earlier on in your career, or maybe it was sort of under the surface, or you thought that it was at bay, feeling invisible can exacerbate that feeling of imposter syndrome, making you doubt, right, your accomplishments and making you fear that you're going to be exposed, right? That's the underlying sense with imposter syndrome is that you're going to be exposed as a fraud, right? Like, ooh, she doesn't belong here, or oh, he doesn't deserve that, or he doesn't really know what he's doing. It's that sort of sense of you're going to be exposed as a fraud. And it can lead to self-sabotage, right? I mean, you'll downplay your success and maybe avoid taking on new challenges if you have that self-doubt or if you have that imposter syndrome. The other way that invisibility can chip away at our confidence is with a sense of isolation, right? So when you and your work feel, when you feel insignificant, or when the work you do feels insignificant, it's harder to maintain motivation and engagement. So you slowly isolate yourself, right? A sense of apathy develops along with anxiety and depression, and then that further isolation. So that feeling of invisibility, right, being ignored or overlooked, it really chips away at your self-worth, and it can lead to detachment, right, and a feeling that you just aren't valuable, which eventually will lead to, burning out or quitting, or something bad's going to happen. Now, there's this cycle that happens within us. This is normal. This is human nature. But there's this common cycle of pushing hard to be seen when you're being unseen, if that makes sense. So what ends up happening is there's this push and there's this drive, it's driven by this need or this desire for external validation. But what happens is we overdo it, right? We overextend ourselves, or we overcommit ourselves, or, we try and prove ourselves. It's in an effort to prove our worth so that we're not undervalued, so that we're not unappreciated, so that we're not overlooked, right? It's a pattern of overworking and neglecting what we need, right? Neglecting our personal needs, and ultimately experiencing depletion. I worked for many years coaching executives in burnout specifically. And so understanding that dynamic, that cycle of pushing and neglecting our needs and pushing to over commit and overwork and overextend in an effort to be seen, right? You want that sense of accomplishment, or that sense of validation that you're enough. And so it's human nature to want to overdo it to prove that. And so this push happens, this cycle of pushing and overdoing it, overworking or overcommitting, but it ends up in emotional and physical depletion, right? It depletes your energy, and it leads to a sense of emptiness and detachment. And so, that burnout, that dissatisfaction, that feeling of being disillusioned and unfulfilled, right? Like, I'm working so damn hard and nobody's seeing it, or someone else is taking credit, or I've stagnated, I can't seem to get any higher, right? Or I'm being ignored, I'm being overlooked, I'm being kind of put in a corner. And it's really disheartening when you're trying so hard. So why do people stay stuck then, right? That's the big question. Well, why would you stay stuck in these roles, in these invisible roles, right? When you're invisible and being unseen, and that's deeply dissatisfying to you, why stay, right? Why stay stuck? Well, I mean, for all the reasons that you and I have talked about a million times. The fear of change, right? We all as humans fear the unknown. We fear change. It's totally natural and normal. And so because of that fear, it stops us dead in our tracks, right? it's uncertain what's on the other side. Change is hard. Change is scary, right? We fear the unknown, right? And so we stay stuck. The other reason is financial pressure. I mean, let's be practical about this, right? If you're making good money where you are, you've maybe justified that or qualified it. Like there's a financial pressure that comes with changing careers, or it's almost like the justification to stay stuck in the thing that's no longer working. There's also that self-doubt that we've been talking about, right? Like being invisible chips away at your self-worth, your self-confidence, and it fosters that self-doubt. And so when you have that self-doubt, that's going to keep you stuck. It's really hard to be confident and feel powerful and make a big career change when you're feeling like crap, right? When you're feeling unworthy and unappreciated and undervalued, right? So that self-doubt that's been perpetuated through this whole cycle is now keeping you stuck in it, right? And then it's like the whole comfort of the routine, right? There's a lot of stability that comes with being in a role that you know, even if it's, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't, right? So it's like, who knows what my career is going to look like if I leave here, or if I try and change, or if I try and pivot and do something else. Who knows? It might be worse. And so that sense of stability, right? The comfort of the routine that you're in, that really can hold us back as well and keep us stuck in this role where we're invisible, right? So it perpetuates that cycle, right? So you're feeling invisible, you're feeling ignored, overlooked, unseen. The self-doubt develops, the imposter syndrome exacerbates, and now we're feeling stuck, and we stay stuck because the money's decent, or there's financial pressure because if I leave, I'm gonna have to start at the bottom, or I'm gonna have to take a pay cut, or whatever the narrative is that you've got going on. But it's this cycle then that perpetuates. So what are the early signs that it's time to leave, right? Like what are these feeling ignored, feeling overlooked, feeling undervalued? Of course, those are signs that it's time to leave, right? Like that's not a healthy place for you to be if you're feeling that way. And so, there are some other early signs that you can look for that will give you an indication that it's time to look for something else, or it's time to prioritize being seen and being valued over just getting by, right? You don't want to just get by in your career. You don't want to just be doing a job for the sake of it, right? So you want to be seen, you want to be valued, right? So what are some early signs that it's time to take a stand for yourself and make a change so you can be seen and be valued? Well, the first would be recognizing that feeling of constant compromise, right? Do you know that feeling where like you're the one that's always adjusting, right? You're the one that's always giving more. You're the one that's, overcompensating, right? A sign that your needs are not being met, or your needs are not being considered, is that constant feeling of compromise, right? That you're constantly the one that's adjusting or giving more or overcompensating, right? That's a sign that it's time to go, right? You're not being equally considered in that situation, right? Another sign that it's time to start prioritizing yourself and being seen and being valued is a lack of support, right? Like look around. Who's supporting you, right? When your successes and your wins are met with indifference or jealousy, or they're not being celebrated, right? Like if you look around and you don't feel like you have a support system, spoiler alert, that is a big sign that you're not being valued and you're not being appreciated. So it's maybe time to go, right? If you lack support, if you don't have support where you are from leadership or from peers or from your subordinates, right? The other sign, maybe an earlier sign than either of those, is really feeling drained by your interactions. So think about like your day-to-day, who you're interacting with and the scenarios and the situations that you're being involved in. So healthy relationships should energize you, right? Should be energizing to you, not depleting. And so if work relationships or work scenarios, if you leave those interactions feeling exhausted or unfulfilled or depleted, then that's a sign it's not right for you, right? Because healthy relationships, healthy interactions should be energizing. So I want to encourage you to pay attention to those early signs that something's not right, right? I want you to pay attention to those signs where you're feeling drained by interactions instead of energized, and where you're feeling a lack of support, or you're feeling that constant compromise, like you're going the extra mile, or you're the one that's always having to like bend over backwards, right? And you're always adjusting and you're always the one giving more, right? That's a sign that it's not right for you. And so I want you to pay attention to those nagging feelings of discomfort, even if it's subtle, right? Even if it's subtle, you've got to listen and pay attention, because that first indicator that something needs to change is that feeling of discomfort. You don't have to figure out why. You don't have to figure out what's next. I mean, I can help you with the what's next. But as long as you can acknowledge and pay attention to those early nagging signs of discomfort, and some simple ways that you can start reclaiming your power and reclaiming your worth, start setting boundaries, right? I know it's super uncomfortable and it's really hard to say no and push back, right? But you have to start setting some boundaries, and you have to start speaking up, right? If you're being taken advantage of, if you're being overlooked, or if you are feeling unseen or ignored, it's time to start using your voice, right? It's time to start speaking up for yourself, and so that you aren't being taken advantage of and overlooked, right? And then the last simple way that you can start reclaiming your worth is to redefine your value, right? So again, if you're in a role that doesn't feel congruent, if it feels dissatisfying, if it feels unfulfilling, if you're feeling, that push, like you're overextending, but it keeps hitting a wall, it's not really being recognized, or it's not being appreciated, it's time to redefine your value. And again, I can help you do that. But the message I want to leave you with is that you matter, and your work should reflect that, right? You're valuable for who you are, not what you do, but who you are. So you matter, and your work should really reflect that. So a sense of purpose and significance in one's work is really crucial for well-being, right? To feel engaged and to feel motivated to do the work, a sense of purpose and significance really needs to be there. It's important to feel value and to feel recognized for your contributions, right? As humans, it's important to feel that, to feel like we matter and to feel like we're valued. So if you feel like you can speak up enough and set strong enough boundaries and be valued and be recognized where you're at, great. Stay where you are, implement some of those small changes, right? Those small shifts, boundary setting, using your voice more effectively, right? Speaking up for yourself. And so if you can get to a sense where you're feeling recognized and valued appropriately, then great, stay where you are. If not, it's time for a change, my friend. It is time for a change, right? As they say in Monopoly, like, do not pass go, right? Stop where you are and make a change. It is time, because if you are feeling these things, if what I'm saying is resonating for you, you don't have a ton of runway left to keep feeling insignificant, right? To keep feeling disillusioned, to keep feeling unfulfilled, to keep feeling drained and exhausted and frustrated and dissatisfied, right? You can only go along like that for so long before you hit a wall. So individuals, again, human nature, we need to feel like our work is meaningful and like our efforts are appreciated. We have to feel like what we're doing is being acknowledged and it's appreciated. And when our work aligns with our personal values and our personal purpose and view of the world, our beliefs, right? That creates a stronger sense of motivation, right? Because we feel like what we're doing matters. It's meaningful, it's purposeful, it's making an impact, right? So when we have that in our work, when we're aligned with our own values and beliefs, that creates a stronger sense of purpose. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is this. Keeping a journal to document your thoughts and your feelings is a really great way to get unstuck, right? It's a really great way if you can document your experiences and process your feelings around the scenario that happened today. Hey, I was in a meeting and, Bob talked over me and that sucked. Journal about it. Or, man, I came up with a great idea to move a project forward and Mary was, taking credit for my idea, right? Or whatever the scenario was that happened that day, but document your thoughts and your feelings around those experiences in a journal. It is really a valuable tool. It's really powerful for self-reflection. Now, if you don't know how to journal, if you've never done journaling, check out the shop, kendracourt.com/shop. We've got a journal in there. It's like $27. You can pick it up and it's a great way to kickstart your journaling habit. But keeping a journal and documenting your feelings and your thoughts and the experiences that you're having will start to shift the patterns, right? It will start to shift this cycle and it will certainly get you unstuck. So remember, you matter and your work should reflect that. I'm here for you and I love you and I am sending you all the good vibes because you matter and your contribution to the world matters. Okay, until next time, be well.